So, we go again, number 37 of the Darkness to Light Godcast. Welcome back if you're joining me again. Jim McFadyen here from the Vortex Centre for Wellbeing. Number 37 is going to be called The Shift. It wasn't going to be, and the intention over the last couple of weeks has been to bring on one of the inner circle. I've spoken in the past about the squadcast and the people that are running about this work just now, and my intention to bring them in, let people hear their stories for many different reasons. And the last couple of weeks, it's supposed to have been somebody who I'm very excited for you to get run about and to see, and I'm hoping it's going to be next week. If not next week, then definitely the following. The plans were to kind of record this as Wednesday. I'm recording this, it'll go out on Friday again. The plan was to record that today, both of us, and do a squadcast. But as always, we make plans and the gods laugh. It's a lot of that just now, making plans about loads of different things, and I'm having to adjust on the fly and on the go, which is fine. It's very interesting for me, watching where I'm at just now. And the pace that I'm going at, and the amount of time, no effort. It's not really. There's no effort in it. It becomes just the way that you do things. But since I come back from Spain, overseeing Michael and Fern, back from Malaga, the start of January, 2nd of January, it's over a month now that I've been back, and the I suppose momentum that I've been gathering with my own work, my own practices, my own disciplines, the devotional disciplines. And all the fruits that are starting to come from that are coming from so many different directions and manifesting in so many different ways. The amount of synchronicities, the really kind of profound metaphysical experiences that I'm having, not only meditation, which has been the norm for a long time now, to the point where it doesn't matter how weird it is, it's just becomes the natural way and the natural order of things when you're on about this work. But things like my dream state and the way that I've been sleeping, particularly over the last couple of weeks, I've taken everything in my life, all the caffeines and the stuff that was causing resistance, and I think I've had one half a shot of coffee since I came back from Spain, after having probably 4 or 5 over there, which sounds nothing, but my diet and my system has been at different levels, has been so clean for so long now. That back in the day when I was out on the building sites, and I would have probably a couple of coffees a day, and you're using it to fuel yourself, and you're at that different age and stage in your life. But certainly as I've gotten older, and my diet is the way it is just now, and all the different again, the practices, the disciplines, and the way that I'm kind of feeling myself, my body responds very, very quickly. So that half shot of coffee that I had probably 3 weeks ago, I felt as if I was going to have a stroke. That's the impact that it had on me. And you're left with the choice, do you need it? I am no. And there's something about, when you really get on about this lifestyle, and you start to fuel yourself in a certain way, and you start to sleep in a certain way, and then you add into that, not just the meditation, because that's just a norm, but you add into, I've been doing a lot of movement, which I'm really enjoying. I've been back exercising again, so I've been back on my bike, which has been great, twice in the last week. I've done probably a couple of hours the first time, and then probably an hour and a half. When was that? Sunday, freezing cold, like freezing wind. It was just wonderful, being out in the wind and middle of nowhere with no phone. Just kind of spinning my legs and getting a bit of sweat up, which I haven't done for a long time. I stopped training in 2016. After probably 15-20 years of training almost every single day. Certainly when I was doing the full distance Ironman stuff, I was training between 20 to 30 hours a week sometimes. 3 bikes, 3 swims and 3 runs every week, and I was doing karate at the same time, and then jiu-jitsu was added in at the back end of that as well. And when I wasn't training or sleeping, I was basically recovering with active recovery and movement, which is something I've always enjoyed, and I'm back into that again. I'm doing a lot of myofascial release, thanks to someone you're going to meet very soon on the programme, my brother Ross Peters. He's going to be coming on to V2, the programme, to help the programme members, and the results I'm getting with that have been incredible. I've been doing yoga and yoga moves for a lifetime now. It's been over 30 years. And in fact, the class last night in the Vortex, my wife yoga, every Tuesday night, that has become my favourite practice, my favourite hour to myself the entire week. There's something about being in the presence of her, and her taking you through real yoga. It's not just moves, and it's not just different postures or whatever, but it's the intention of the teacher, as always with any of this stuff. And just watching her, I think over the last wee bit, and just watching who she's becoming as a yoga teacher. And when you understand what yoga is, the reconnection back to the self and back to the divine, and how she does that, and the space that she's creating up here every Tuesday night, just really blessed in so many different ways. And really excited. She's another one that's going to be on V2, the programme, going to be yoga from Jill, my wife, which I'm really excited for people to get in about her. She's transitioning. She's been practicing for many, many years now, many hours a day most days, but also this is her 25th year of having her own business. She's been at her own childcare nursery for the last 25 years this summer. We actually bought it just before we got married, weeks before we got married. And the story how that came about was incredible. That was probably one of the first real kind of manifestations that we were both aware of in terms of how it played out, and the story behind it's a cracker, which I'll probably share at some point in the future. But yoga last night with her, and thinking about these ancient practices and these ancient ways, and how good not only I felt last night, but the other ladies. It was me and the woman, which it seems to be most weeks, which is great. That the feminine energy is something that obviously I'm teaching from a certain level, being a guy. And being about that balanced feminine energy is just wonderful. And I actually felt quite bad because, the way that I do it and the way that I teach my guys in particular, the boys club on the Monday night, it's very masculine, but when you tap into the feminine stuff and, that just really, really subtle, much quieter, obviously, more gentle, and how nourishing that is for your soul. And, lying there last night in absolute bliss, and never wanting it to end. And being very much aware of, how big a part that is, the solution, and, the light that's required in this world, and what's going on in the world just now, how that's such a huge part of it. And excited for her, getting more and more on about this, getting more and more on about the vortex. I always felt that this wasn't really going to take off the way that I've always known that it will, and it can, unless she was going to be with me, and doing it probably full time at some point, and now that's starting to, we're starting to work together. And the balance between what I'm doing, all the different stuff that I'm teaching, and also what she brings in, not just with the yoga, just like who she is as a human being, and the light that's inside her. I talk about joy a lot, and I talk about being happy, and how what that does to you, and how it just impacts the entire world. And she's certainly the example of that. She's a person I reference all the time when I'm basically speaking about that. She is only joy. She really is. She's magnificent. Someone I'm absolutely blessed to call my wife. And we're married obviously 25 years this year as well, which is just obviously significant, but I can't believe how quick it's happened, and the amount of water that's been under the bridge with the Waynes, and all that's kind of took place over the last 25 years, and the bit that we're at, in our relationship, and how it just keeps seeming to be getting better and better. The marriage is something I am absolutely, it's something I feel very strongly about. I believe it's been, whether it's been taken away, by design, or just it's been another kind of casualty of war, because of the environment we find ourselves in. There's an argument in that, but I do know that, certainly what we've got, and how it impacts, the family first and foremost, but then, how it allows us to, take ourselves into the world, and the work that we're doing, because of, all the goodness and the balance and the way it's meant to be. I believe that comes from that, that loving, marriage and home environment is so important. It's something that absolutely needs to be brought back. So there's loads of kind of really good stuff going on just now, and I'm going to speak a wee bit about the challenges, the shift that this one is all about, is the shift in the world that's happening at this moment. Over the last couple of weeks, and you'll hear me talking about the circus on occasion. I dip my toe in, and I stick my nose in now and again to see where it's at and to see what's going on. The good and the bad, I believe you need to kind of see what they're up to. And it took me a long time, and I think it's really important for anybody who's a truther and who's trying to shove the truth in terms of what their perspective of the truth is down everybody's throats. I remember when I got on about the horrors of the world, which was back in probably 2015, 16, when I started to see through things, started to see through the realities that I believed, and then I remember the day that I realised that every single thing that I thought to be true was wrong. That was an interesting realisation. That penny drop moment where I thought, like, holy fuck, like everything, the movies and the music and, the politicians and the world stage and the way that it's set up and, the level of suppression and, the way that it's designed to basically to keep you down. And now, where we find ourselves today in terms of the level of sickness and disease in the world and the amount of people that are struggling and suffering, the amount of people that are broken, the amount of people that are dying way too young from all sorts of different conditions, then, we take it to, or they're taking it to the nth degree just now where they don't really even hide it anymore. So I do like to check in now and again and see where the world is. Obviously the last couple of weeks, your man is back in the White House, so the trumpet, he's back. And, I never really looked at newspapers or anything, any media for the longest time. And probably back at the same time, whenever he was the president the first time around, and I remember somebody kind of passed on some information about tuning in. It was a time with the old QAnon stuff, and I remember looking at it and watching Trump, and he was talking about the challenges that we faced, very cryptic, which he's a sneaky human being, really is. And I watched him, and for a wee while, open heart, open mind, and kind of tuning into him and seeing what he was doing. The proof's always in the pudding. It doesn't matter what people say, it's what they do. And I remember watching him and thinking it's going to be interesting. And I knew who he was. No interest to me, like the business guy and the money and all that kind of stuff. That meant nothing to me. But when he became president, and then the transition of watching him, the way he was behaving himself, I always had a kind of hope that he was going to turn out for the good, which is so difficult when you understand how the world goes together. And the politicians they're really puppets. They can only go so far. The real the puppeteers that are above them that actually control this realm, whatever it is. These guys are so limited in so many different ways. You can see that with the last president, and how limited obviously he was. You think he's the leader of the free world, and the guy can hardly tie his shoes, or Joe Biden, and hardly string a sentence together. So you start to realise that these people are very, very limited, and then you need to go above that, and maybe a couple of layers above that to see who the real kind of organ grinders are. So certainly with him, watching him with an open mind to see how he was going to go. And it was really when the vaccines came in, and again, people forget really quickly. People are fickle, and they forget because of the amount of information, and obviously because of the belief systems. And when they stand beside or behind somebody, and then you see them flipping and flopping the way that he does. I was always of the opinion, just like see how he goes. And then it was really when he brought in the vaccines, when he called himself, the father of vaccines, and how quick he was able to bring them in. I watched a compilation the other day of all the different clips of him basically talking about it and basically taking credit for it. How quick they'd done it and how many lives he'd saved, and how so many people round about the world were losing out, but because of him, and how he was able to force the FDA to get it through, which at the time, the Americans a lot of them were doing somersaults. A lot of them were very sceptical, as was I at the time because of my own vaccination story. But then when you fast forward to where we're at just now, and I see it every day, I see the detrimental side of vaccines, what they've done to people. And obviously the amount of people now worldwide that are questioning all of that, how it happened, how quick it happened. The literal mandates were put in place. I watched him on one of his press conferences. Again, a wee clip. I'm not watching it. I'm wee bits at a time. There's a couple of commentators that I watch who basically they're of a spiritual intention. So I'll dip in and out them just a wee bit because the truth of stuff for me. It makes you feel bad, when you see the horrors of the world and you spend too much time in it. It can bring you down, which again I believe is done by design. That's why I really always have a go at truthers, because they don't know what they're doing. They think they're doing you a favour by telling you how bad it is, but when you understand how things go together, like talking about it and shining a light on it, which I suppose I'm doing a wee bit here, but as always I'm trying to get back to the solutions and the answers. You got a wee look at it to see how bad it is, and then it's the solutions. So please bear with me. But when Trump and he was talking about the mandatory vaccinations and mandates for the military, and how a lot of the military personnel basically decided to leave the armed forces because of the mandates. And that was him that did that. That was him that basically brought that in. That was, I believe it was an executive order at the time. And now he's basically pardoning, that time. So he's taken all the blame and responsibility from himself, and now he's welcoming them back in, and people are celebrating it. So when you see it from, I suppose, the observer's viewpoint, I'm like a spectator watching it. I'm not vested in any side of it. I have no political, it doesn't matter to me. I've never voted. I don't believe in it. It doesn't matter who gets in. I've been watching it my whole life. It doesn't matter back in the days of Maggie Thatcher and John Major and all the way up to the current clowns that are running the country, are in position of power. They're in office and doing whatever needs done. Then nothing really changes, and again it's the ones above them that are controlling, our destiny as the peasants, as the lower, the working classes and the lower levels of, from their perspective. It's really them that they control what happens to us. So I've really no interest on any side. Politics mean nothing to me. On a world level, it doesn't matter. What is interesting is the impact that it has, on a world level. And only last night, again I saw it this morning, and he was, in the last few days with Trump's been brilliant. He's great value for entertainment, talking about Canada and Mexico and Canada becoming a state. And I was thinking this morning meditation how Canada actually belongs to the royal family, the king. They own Canada, which is horrifying when you consider that. How did they manage to get that? But anyway, they do. And how he's talking about making it a state, an American state, and he's obviously just bumping his gums and whatever he's trying to do to create whatever he's trying to create. And then, fast forward to this morning, another clip where he's talking about how America's going to basically step in and, basically claim Gaza and take Gaza and make it the Riviera of the Middle East. And your man standing beside him, the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. And anybody that's been aware of what's been going on, it's fascinating to watch how one-sided, that level of, the debate is when you see the mainstream media talking about. You even see that man standing beside Donald Trump. And then over the last year, the atrocities, the literal genocide that's taken place in Palestine. You think these people who basically had their country taken from them thanks to the British back in the day, and then bit by bit they're basically being forced out of their homeland. And now after the last year of war, and now Trump's coming in and basically offering the refugees where they're going to go, and and it's been interesting to watch the galvanisation of the neighbouring countries who are basically saying no and standing up to him, as have a few of the other countries, Mexico and Canada, and they're basically saying nah, enough's enough. And we understand the way the world is and the level of the politics in terms of that area, that whole Middle East, and where Russia comes into it, and Iran, and all the different, obviously China's part of that as well, and how things are shifting, and the power is shifting absolutely from America just now. This whole thing with BRICS, where they're basically, they're changing. Anybody that doesn't know, there's a thing called the petrodollar, where again America, the war machine, and since the inception of it, when America went in and basically did away with all these countries to basically steal their natural resources. The deal that they did was that every barrel of oil that was traded worldwide, it happened in dollar. It became the petrodollar, and that's why the American currency and the American dollar is so significant, because they hold all the cards there. They need to trade in their currency if you're going to basically buy oil. And the Industrial Revolution and all the kind of over the last, whatever it's been, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, obviously the money that they've made off that and what it's funded and what they've done with it. When that starts to get to a point where it is just now, where there's a new regime coming up and they're basically saying, we've had enough of that and we don't really like how you've been abusing your power, and we're now going to enable these other countries, these BRICS countries, to trade in a different currency. Then all of a sudden, as I've been talking about for many, many years now, and I've been watching for many, many years, America's finished. America is in free fall. America is already in the bones of its arse in terms of inflation. You just need to look at the videos of the homelessness situation, the amount of people that are, on the streets. And these are normal people, that basically had good, well-paying, a lot of them professional jobs, and then all of a sudden they find themselves in a tent with nothing. And that's before you add in, the epidemic of, drugs and crime and the gun violence, and for the longest time, when you see, the horrors that they have basically brought upon the world, and then the power starts to shift and the power starts to change. And you see America in free fall the way that it has been for quite a few years now. When you look at the national debt of America, there's a thing online you can check, and it's basically a debt calculator, and it shows you, in real time how quick the interest on the debt that America owes, not just to the Federal Reserve, but to worldwide. How all these different parts to the puzzle, and how America is literally bankrupt, as is most of the Western world, I'd imagine, just now. Then, it's in free fall and it's going to crash and burn, and obviously they don't like that because they have been the superpower, the American dream for an entire, certainly my lifetime, the land of the free, and where everything was the way that it was meant to be, that American dream. Then you really need to look at it and go, right, so what are they going to do about it? And the way they're going to get out of it, in my opinion, is with war. Excuse me. I've got a wee bit of creak in my throat still. It's been going on for weeks and weeks now. I've been speaking way too much. 2 seconds, a wee bit of honey. There we go. The way that they get out of it is the way they basically, how they do a lot of things is basically through war, which obviously isn't ideal. And when you look at how the military industrial complex works, and the money that's being made from it, and who benefits from that, who profits from that, it's the highest levels. It's the owners of the world that own these companies that are basically making the money from, so war is a good thing for them. They like war, and unfortunately for us, it's not a good thing. It really isn't. And the reasons that it comes about, and the way that it's always came about, there's different factors in that. Power, money, greed, always, and then you add in things like, obviously, religious standpoints and the significance of certain, races, a kind of allegiance and alignment with the divine, God they would call that, the holy wars that are going on. And when you get to a situation that America are in just now, and you see how bad it is, and then you see the stuff that the old trumpet's talking about, and the challenges that America are facing, then please God, this doesn't go the way that I've felt for a long time that it's probably going to go. But war is the ultimate suppression. When they're talking about depopulation, which is really what was the kind of COVID stuff was all about, and it's all this kind of the poisoning of the food and the poisoning of the air and the water and the medications, and that we were being basically brainwashed into living. Then the depopulation is a huge thing for them, doing away with as many people as possible, and war is the ultimate depopulator. And you think about, and I heard my dad talking about this, my granddad come back for the war, the amount of families down in Motherwell, down the Lonan where he was born, the amount of families that they basically were then raised with their mums because the dads didn't come back for war. Large families, basically with no men, and obviously without men, the population is going to be stunted. But the possibilities of a war and the scale that they're looking at just now, if you're looking to basically deal with a large percentage of the world, then that would be the way to do it. So not the best of times just now, it really isn't, and a lot of people are getting really caught up in it. A lot of people are really worried about it. I am of the opinion that wait and see what happens. I think you need to prepare, yourself, and I'm going to talk about that in a wee bit. How you prepare for these events, how you basically dust yourself down and you manage your way through it. It's important to see what it is, so that you can get prepared, so you can get yourself ready. I don't mean do press ups and get ready to sharpen your bayonet so you can jump onto the front line. That'll never happen. The new war is already happening. The world war's already on in terms of the financial wars and the trading, the trade wars and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of military conflict, if it ever does go to that, then the weapons I've got just now, which I've always known that felt that if they create them, then they're going to use them at some point. So if it did happen, there'll be nothing to worry about. It'll be done and dusted before you even know it. Which would be probably a blessing in disguise for many, many reasons. For Mother Earth, and maybe wiping out and starting again. certainly the state we're in just now and the conditions of the earth are not sustainable for much longer the way we're doing it, so the shift is on. There is a massive shift just now, and there's two sides to that shift. That's where I'm really going with this. There's the dark side of that, which I've just been speaking about. Maybe spoke a wee bit too long there, apologies if I'm bringing you down a wee bit. That's not my intention. I think to see where it is and to see how bad it is important, but the split in the camps, and it's interesting to watch people where they are. And how how the dark forces and what human beings have become. Your man Netanyahu and what they've been doing for the last year, they've got people fenced in and basically, and this is all on TikTok. You'll see. Not that I watch TikTok. Again, I've seen clips of it, but basically this war, this genocide, this extermination of a people has been caught by the Israeli soldiers in real time. And these people can't go anywhere. They're basically fenced in and they're defenceless with no hospitals or schools or medication. So every single war crime you can imagine has been broken. And when you see that the leaders of the countries, these world leaders, and what they're able to do and what they're capable of doing and getting away with it, you only need to look at the amount of politicians that have been standing up in their own parliaments and calling out, these war crimes and how, nothing happens, nobody's held accountable for them, nothing changes. And then you see him on the television yesterday, standing beside Trump, as if everything's great and basically, poor me. And that's absolutely true as well. I've no doubt about it. The Israeli side of things, 100%. But when you look at the war and how that was funded and when you stack up like top trumps, no pun intended, but top trumps, who's got all the ammunition, who's got all the military power, who's got the money, who's got the weapons and who's got the planes and the kind of, then there's only one winner in that. And then you see him yesterday standing at a press conference beside Trump, as if, water wouldn't basically run off his back, so that there's nothing what's went wrong. It's just the way that it is, and that's terrifying when you see what human beings are becoming. Compassion for life, compassion for other souls that are suffering, and I mean, you've done that, and you're standing up there with no remorse, no regrets, but it's just business as usual. Then the dark side of that, the dark side of the force, before you even get into the ways of the world, the rest of the world, the music industry, the Hollywood, the films, society, the media, social media. We have fallen from grace, there is no question about it. And we're falling at a rate and in ways that if we don't do something about it very, very quickly, then it possibly will be too late. And I did watch this, I watched Greg Braden, his latest one. He's everywhere just now, he's got a new book out. Was it Full Human it's called, or Pure Human, or something along those lines. Greg Braden's somebody who I've been watching for probably a quarter of a century. One of his documentaries called The Divine Matrix, The Language of the Divine Matrix, was something that really kind of had a profound impact on me and changed my life many, many years ago. Anybody that's interested in that kind of stuff, I'd encourage you to go and watch it. But he's recent kind of, and I haven't seen him for years, but I watched him last week on Lewis Howes, and he was talking about how AI and the challenges that we face in terms of this nanotechnology and basically human beings being interfaced with technology and artificial intelligence. And the dangers that's going to imply in terms of, and the ultimate level, it's basically taking away our humanness. And he's into great detail talking about that, what it means to be human and, the divinity that we carry inside of us from both a scientific perspective, but also from the metaphysical side of things as well. And that's something that I've felt for a long, long time. That's why I talk about darkness v light, the darkness of, the lower levels of consciousness, the dark side of the force. I don't believe in the devil, I really don't, I never have, but the human beings, their need to, feed the ego, I believe that's what the devil is, the human ego, their need to feed the ego and self-gain in this lifetime, no matter what the cost is. And then what you see where we're at just now, and this whole agenda, Greg Braden talks about it, 2030, the agenda for 2030, and how, whether it's an option, whether it's mandated, for us to be, interfaced with artificial intelligence. And then at that point, if that happens, and God willing that never happens, but if that did happen, then we basically lose whatever it is that makes us human beings, you know. So at that point, there are massive challenges. There really is. You know, you're talking about, you know, something that's evolved over how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, you know, to get to this place that we are, and we experience as being, you know, conscious living beings. And how, you know, over the last, you know, 10, 20, 30 years, we're now in a position where, you know, that might be getting done away with. And for many people, it probably has already been done away with, you know. So it's the hour is very, very late. The shift is on. The challenges that we face, the dark side of the force, which many people are ignorant to. That's the kind of sad part. Human beings, free will. You see the amount of kids just now that are basically, you know, raised with their phones, again because the household's been split up, or, you know, the dad's aren't there and the mum's working 2 or 3 jobs to try and keep it going, or vice versa, you know, they're with the dad and the mum's left, whatever. But you see these kids just now that are basically lost in so many different ways and sick in so many different ways, with stress and anxiety and overwhelmment. And, you know, the chronic inflammation that this information age has brought to so many of them. It's the future going forward, you know, this next generation, you know, how Greg Braden talked about how, you know, how it'd be really cool, some of these teenagers, you know, the possibility that you've got a nanochip inside of you, that you can basically go online at any time and play these computer games, you know, without having to access or, you know, be part of some sort of hard drive system. Then, you know, they think that's a good idea. And again, human beings, you know, the free will and the ability to choose, you know, which direction they go in. That's a good thing and a bad thing, you know. But when it gets to that level, where these kids that are going to be making these decisions that could basically change humanity forever, at some point, obviously, you know, something hopefully is going to get done, and something needs to be done, you know. So there are many challenges. There really are. There's so many different ways, and then you look to the solutions. You know, what are the solutions? Let's get rid of that stuff. Let's look to the solutions. And here's another challenge. You know, the solutions out there, and the people who are leading the solutions, the people at the top of the tree, especially within this work, I've got massive challenges with some of them as well. I watched Anthony Robbins. He had a thing called Time to Rise Summit over the weekend. And anybody that doesn't know, I trained with Tony Robbins. First time I basically came across Tony Robbins was in 1997, where the man who got me involved in this work had been to train with him the year before down in London. His Unleash the Power Within weekend, and he was talking about him, how it'd be great to go and see him, and, you know, the fire walk and all that kind of stuff, and fear into power, and how your physiology works, and like basic personal development stuff, all about, you know, being successful, mastering the self, which is the lower self, you know, the ego level of self, you know, getting all the stuff that you desire through hard work and motivation, and, you know, setting your goals and your intentions, and then going smashing it every day. I saw Robbins for the first time in 1998. I went to see Richard Bandler in 1997, who I spent 9 days with him, and on that course, the amount of people that spoke about Tony Robbins and the need to go and see Tony Robbins. And I found myself 1998 for the first time, like, training with Tony Robbins over a weekend down in London. 10,000 people. Incredible what I witnessed that weekend, and the lessons that I learned from him that weekend were incredible. And then over the next, up until 2012, was the last time that I trained with him. I used to take my staff. I had a decent sized business at one point, a building company, and I would take my staff down almost every year at one point for a period of time. So I trained with Robbins 7 times, did his wealth mastery course, did his the business course, the Unleash the Power Within weekend. I did that 2 or 3 times, and then I would basically take my staff down and then spend the weekend in London. Me and Jill went down, my wife went down a couple of times, and did a couple of things with it, did the fire walk and whatever, and then, you know, let the staff get the benefit. Once you've heard it and seen it more than once, the jokes are the same, the processes are the same, you know, the way that he does it a lot of the times is it's kind of pre-rehearsed would be the best way to do it. I remember the first time he tells a joke right at the very beginning. It was the same joke every year, every time I saw him. And obviously there's people that have never seen it before, and it works so fantastic, and, you know, it's obviously his work, so fair play to him, and the amount of people that he's impacted, fantastic. But the last time I saw him in person was 2012, where I spent 6 days with him. A course called Date with Destiny. That's what he always talks about, his flagship course, 6 days with Tony Robbins, 16 to 18 hours a day, which is literal. I flew over to Palm Springs. My wife got me as my 40th birthday, 2012 I went. So the year after my 40th, I went and spent 6 days with him. And at the time, I was really well beyond Robbins' stuff. Motivation and getting the things and being the man and hard work and all that stuff wasn't for me a long time before that. But I think I went at the time, obviously it was a gift, but I went to kind of see where he was at and learn. I was coaching at that time, I was helping people at that time, and I was probably refining my own skill set. So I went to kind of observe him as a fellow teacher and to see how he was doing it. And I learned a lot, I really did. I learned a lot of the stuff that I picked up that he was teaching was the stuff that I was already doing. And I've never really watched many people for the longest time. Now, probably since just before then, I stopped, reading the books, and I stopped watching other teachers, and because the stuff that was coming through me, my spiritual practices, that was the stuff that I was interested in. So that was original to me. I believed that it was coming down through inspiration, coming through spirit, to the what I was putting in myself every single day. This devotional journey I was on, and really documenting, my own healing journey. And I really knew that the part that I was going to play, and the way that I was going to help people, I didn't want to be another Tony Robbins or another anybody. I really believed the stuff that I was doing, especially with my connection to the divine by that point, was going to be original to me. It felt profound at the time in terms of there wasn't anything else like it, and obviously the impact that it had on me and the healing I was able to get through it. Then I basically gave up all the teachers. So that summit of the weekend, Time to Rise summit, again with Robbins, it was interesting watching him from the beginning, where he used to stand up as a proud Christian, and then I watched his wife Sage come on the scene a few years after that when he split with his wife, his first wife, and I watched him, and then it became about spirituality. They did a thing called was it oneness meditation, and actually in Palm Springs I remember sitting with him. They move you about the room, there's like 3,500 people, and you're in big groups. So they move you about the room, and the particular day, it was great, the particular day in the evening that we were right at the front, my group was right at the front, so Tony Robbins was probably 10 feet from me, and they were talking about this oneness meditation. And I thought this is going to be interesting because I've never seen him like that. He was a Christian, and he was a religious guy, and obviously a good man, and his intentions are absolutely pure, and millions and millions and millions of people that man has helped, myself included, at different stages of it. But I remember watching him and thinking, how's this going to go? When it gets into the stuff that I know about, my strong suit, it's going to be interesting to see how he does. And that oneness, I don't know if they still teach that, but at the time, I remember him sitting on a stool, and he's 6'7", Robbins, his head's about that size, he's a literal giant. And his wife, she's a pure soul. She is pure light, or she was. I haven't seen her for a long time. And I used to see her at the events I would go to, and she'd be walking about backstage or behind the scenes, and like the concourse and different things. So you could kind of feel where somebody was and how he spoke about her. But that was the first time I'd ever saw her on stage. And I remember the both of them sitting in meditation. This was really late one night after they'd been on stage for probably 9 in the morning. This was probably 10, 11 o'clock at night, and they did this hour-long meditation. And I remember him sitting on the stool, and she was sitting beside him, and at the time I was in a really elevated state. I mean, my meditations and my practices were, I was kind of kicking it at the time. I was flying, so I had a real awareness as to where people were, and I was fascinated to see where he was. She was just beaming light. She was just divine light coming through her, only goodness, purest of intentions. There was no force in it, there was no effort, and then he was sitting right beside her, and I remember watching him, and it was almost like, at the time I laughed because it felt like it was like Godzilla, it's as if he had like this like laser beams coming out his eyes, and he was basically scanning the audience, and like trying to put whatever he felt was coming through him into people. Again, pure intentions, but that's not really how it works, that isn't really what it's all about. So that's the last time I trained with him. They were my memories, learned a lot of things from him, a lot of the stuff that I was doing, and I realised that he was doing similar stuff at the time, as I did at the weekend. I tapped in for about probably 5 minutes on Thursday night, and was I surprised? I don't know whether I was surprised or not. I was a wee bit disappointed, I think. I only had 5 minutes. The live stream came on. I was going out for a meal for my wife's mum's birthday, and I'd literally 5 or 10 minutes. So I tuned in, and right at that time, he was basically talking about how he coached the Nugget, McGregor, Conor McGregor, and all the different tools and techniques that he was using, or what he used to help McGregor become who he became. And straight away, my heart sank, because I was like, number one, what the fuck are you doing? Like, who wants to stand beside him? I've been throwing bricks at him since he came onto the scene. My son was the first person I ever heard talk about Conor McGregor back in the day. And then wee Minimus used to talk about him all the time. He used to talk about him like he was a man and a lot of attraction, and Conor's this and Conor's that. And even before the evidence of like how he was conducting himself and who he was in the world when he found the fame and the fortune and the money. Way back then, I could just see who he was, and interesting for me now watching him, the demise and the downfall of him, and what he's became and what he's becoming. Every time I see it, and it's fascinating to watch because you can't block him. On Facebook, it's almost impossible to block. I have blocked probably 100 different Conor McGregor feeds, including his own personal stuff. I must have blocked that 20 times. And then the next day it comes up again, so they're obviously like pushing him and sticking him out for a reason, whether he's seen as the answer or whether it's just to keep people in that place of, what they think his success is. But watching where he is, watching his demise, watching how he's conducting himself, all the addictions, that they fall from grace, not that he was ever of any graceful state, but the mess that he's in, and then to see Tony Robbins with 1.3 million people live on a feed, that's what was on at that time apparently. To watch him talking about and sharing with almost like glee, like what he'd done and how he'd helped Conor and really like who Conor was and how like promoting him, and I'm just going, no, like what are you doing? Like stop it, don't do that, Tony. He's whether and why he doesn't know that, are the reasons he's doing it, So number one, it's like, is he doing it just because of the level of people that he's trying to basically get on board? So it's just a money making thing. Is that his intentions? Obviously to help people and wake them up, but it's like, it was a real awareness to me in terms of the amount of people at that low level of consciousness that are still going about this work. If they're getting entertained and basically, getting caught up with Robbins' stories about McGregor and how, he helped McGregor in the different ways that he was, and I'm going, what are you doing, Tony? It's way beyond that, and I was really disappointed, if I'm honest. And then the next day, old Joe Dispenza, who, again, I came across Joe Dispenza in 2016, and I'd never really, again, the spiritual stuff and the meditations with Joe Dispenza, I really, really like. For a good number of years, I did his progressive 90-day course, which I thought was great. And I believed, and I do believe, he's a force for good, I really do. And it wasn't until probably 4 or 5 years ago when I realised that the amount of people in the HeartMath organisation that really don't like him because he stole all their stuff apparently, which is hilarious. And again, when people take credit for things that isn't theirs and they take it as their own, that's one thing. But the evidence as to what he was doing and the way that he explains meditation and the way that he explains the field, I've always had challenges with the way he talks about how this endless field of darkness, this vacuum, the word they uses, and I'm going, that's not the field that I know. That isn't the conscious field of infinite light and possibilities that some people would call God. That's not the field that I know. And then you need to understand that basically science is a language. So great in so many different ways. Greg Braden does it as well. They talk about the science in terms of how it's able to now prove that this field of consciousness exists. But when I was watching Joe Dispenza, I'm thinking it's so limited, because so many people are being missed out, by the solutions that they're talking about. If they're looking for their healing or they're looking for, whatever it is, they're trying to get past traumas, they're trying to transcend the challenges of their life, then, and I see this with Sadhguru as well. Sadhguru will sit and give you all these mystical tales and rhymes about his own story and fables and, the poetry and different, ways of expressing what he gets in his life and what God is. But I'm always feeling like, so how do you take people and enable them to get to that place, where they find it for themselves? It's fine for you to be sitting there, Sadhguru. You became the mountain. You became, everything magic. So I can just feel people going like fucking, what about me? What can you do to help me? And it's okay to talk about God and it's okay to talk about the divine, but I really feel like, especially these people that are selling, the spiritual ways, then there needs to be the bridges, there needs to be the stepping stones as to how normal people can get it, and very, very quickly, because that shift that's going on just now, the separation, the choice that's on just now, the darkness or the light, the light and the answers and the solution, there only is one solution for this. And that's a reconnection, first and foremost back to the self, reconnection back with each other, reconnection back to the planet and Mother Earth, absolutely, but it's also about reconnection back to the divine. That's the most important part of it. So when you see these world leaders that are making scrillions, they're making absolute fortunes, but they don't really give, the stepping stone, surefire way to get there. That's something that I am absolutely challenged with, and even underneath that, the amount of different therapies and that don't work, they're basically Band-Aids. The amount of stuff, the lady messaged me yesterday talking about, should I go and see this woman, it's 300 quid for an hour and a half, and she's going to do this to me, and I'm going, doesn't feel right. What are you going to get out of it? Is it a direct debit? I had somebody come up and see me last week who basically was going on about how good the life coach was. I've been seeing her every week for the last 3 years. She's amazing, and I'm going, that doesn't sound like amazing to me. That sounds like a direct debit. And it's like, when do you get beyond it? When do you transcend it? Surely the real healing gets to the point where you don't need anybody. That's the self-reliance, but that's the point where you get beyond it, and that's where it's so limited. So many, almost all of these therapies. And the AA is another one, the Alcoholics Anonymous and all the different bits to that, whether it's GA or CA, whatever it is. Addiction is something that is very much on our radar just now. I'm going to be announcing at last, it's coming out, the one step is going to be released in April time. We're looking at doing an event in April time, again on the back of so many people coming to my events and talking about the challenges that they face within the fellowship. And the AA, anybody that's watching, please, I'm not here to fight, I'm not interested in fighting or I swear go. I know the power that's in it, I know the information, and I've been listening to Dr. Hawkins, Power versus Force, talking about the power in AA and the different steps. But the thing for me, that there's loads of different bits to it. Number one, it's over 100 years old. The information and the way that it came through, Bill W., the big book, and the way that it came through, the language in terms of references to the Bible and what his interpretation of God was, and how it's used, and how I really do believe that it's out of date, especially just now, especially over the last probably 10, 15 years, 20 years. It's so out of date. There's how many people actually go to church anymore, how many people have got a religious practice, and yet they get into these rooms and all this kind of these Bible references about God and Jesus and all that kind of stuff. So it's very much out of date. And also, the biggest challenge that I've got is the transcendence is what it's all about. Getting to that place of freedom, getting to that place where you get beyond it. That's something that, and you need to look at the numbers. You need to look at, I looked up the other day, like how many people are in the AA, like how many does it actually cure? And the percentages were between 8 and 12%. That's what it said online. That's the amount of people that actually say that the AA works. And this is the number one. That's the number one tool for addiction in this world. And yet it's got a 90% failure rate. And then you look at the people that are actually successful, and I've had people really having a swear go at me, like basically standing up and going, how dare you say that the AA doesn't work? I've been going to the meetings for the last 45, 50 years, sometimes 4, 5, 6 times a week. And at that point, I don't have the heart to say to them, but if you've been sitting in the rooms for the last, every single night, almost 3, 4, 5 nights a week, for the last 40 or 50 years, I can't see that as success. And the question really is, are you getting beyond it? And by getting beyond it, it's like, are you able to transcend it? Are you able to get to a place where you don't need it anymore? And that's a shift in consciousness. And that's what this new programme is going to be about. So the one step, there is only one step to transcend an addiction. There's different parts to it, there's different things, there's different what they need to do, but it happens very, very quickly. And again, the evidence that I'm seeing in here, I've got people in here that have been addicted to everything, some of them at the same time, and I watch what happens when they reach that place of, the choice of, I need to do it, it must happen, because they've already lost everything, and the next step is their life. And when they really get run about the work and they really apply themselves to this programme and this way of living, and they learn what it's all about, then all of a sudden, very, very quickly, all of the addictions disappear. So massive challenges with the solutions, massive challenges with the ways that we've been given, and how we make it better. And it's a time for, this light, this inspiration to come through, so we can make things better. I'm not really in competition, I'm not challenging anybody. I'm just saying there's a different and an easier way of doing it and a better way of doing it. Why? Because of the results that we're getting. So that's very, very exciting. The solutions and the answer and the way is what it's all about for me. It's so simple and it's so profound and it's so easy. And again, the evidence that I see almost every single day, I saw it again yesterday. If you'd have seen, I wish I could have filmed it. The transition of a human being and the decimation, and all the challenges of the world over a previous lifetime, and then that simple reconnection process and what happened when they remembered, when they remembered the divinity that was inside of them. And there's all the different steps to it. It's becoming easier and easier. I've learned that over the last few weeks with Experience Live. It's not about the cold water. I'm not really that fussed about the cold water. Cold water's a great practice. I love cold water therapy. I love what it does to people. If you're in a certain place, and you're a certain type of person, you can handle that amount of stress, then cold water's fantastic. But it's like, I'm so beyond it in terms of that being the main focus point. And a lot of people are still there, but if you're not doing cold water practice and you're struggling just now, it's like what are you doing? Where have you been the last kind of 4 or 5 years? But it's all the other stuff that is getting me really excited just now. And that's where, the next bit for me, which is always the question, what's next? Where do we go from here? They've been to the Vortex, they've came to a Friday night in, they've been to the Experience online, they've came to an Experience Live. They've maybe been to a big free event, whether it's been a Breathe and Believe or over the last kind of 4 or 5 years, all the kind of free stuff that I've done. They've got a wee sample of it, but I really feel that you don't really get around about this and commit to it properly. Normally, but if the adversity needs to be of a certain level for people to go, right, okay, what do I need to do? What is it that's involved in this? And at that point, if you're committed to this way of living, if you're committed to learning this programme and what it's all about, literal miracles can take place very, very quickly. Exciting for me. I've spoke about it a wee bit before, but it's in 3 weeks now. It's not the flagship event of the Vortex, but it's a massive stepping stone. What I'm now able to do is offer different steps along the way, coming in off the street and listening to what I'm talking about, consciousness, God. People get so caught up in the God word and what God is. They think I'm talking about some dude sitting on a throne with a beard and a religious God. That isn't what it is. Please know that. Even after last Sunday, I spoke about the spirituality and my challenges with organised religion. And somebody at the end basically challenged me, saying I don't agree with your take on religion. And I'm like, well, have you not heard a single thing that I've said? I'm on the exact same page as you, but people can't hear it. So it's interesting watching people getting on about it. It's interesting watching people coming in. And they think they know what I'm doing, and take somebody in off the street, especially somebody who's basically struggling and never been on about this work before, who's not the best of places, let's put it that way, and then they see me, if they hear the conversations that we have, even Monday night with the boys, now there's brickies, electricians, plumbers, just normal guys, building site workers, businessmen, there's all different levels of people who just come in between the last 6 years and the last 6 months. And now if you to listen and hear the conversation we're having, because the first part is absolutely about learning language. You need to understand the language. You can't just poo-poo it and say, no, it's a load of shite, it doesn't work. Once you understand what I'm talking about, once you understand the language that I'm using, then you've got to start for 10, then you've got a chance. So that's why people coming in, you can't just expect them to come in and get right onto the programme. I've now stopped that. You can't really just walk in and jump onto the programme. Over the last couple of months, we'll basically stop people joining the programme. Mainly because V2 is going to be released, but also because there needs to be a kind of introductory kind of stepping stone, like a kindergarten, so they come onto the programme full time and they jump into that chat, that Telegram chat. It's too much. People questioning, what do you mean when you say brother and sister? What do you mean when you say God? Well, you need to understand the language before you run about that. Otherwise, we're going to lose you, and otherwise you're not going to get the benefits from it, which nobody wins. So the stepping stones between the experience online, the live events, the Experience Live, which you've been absolutely blessed to be in those rooms and be with us in person and be around those massive shifts that are taking place, these literal miracles that are taking place. You've came here for the Friday nights, you're in here for a one-on-one. The next step, the big step I would say would be to go to One Day to Change Your Life. And that's going to happen again on March the 1st. There's going to be many One Day to Change Your Lives this year, that's the plan. But the next one is on March 1st, down at New Lanark Hotel. It's an entire day. And people are asking, what is One Day to Change Your Life? What happens in that day? Why is it different? And I think, when you get the experience and you walk out of here with a cape on and you feel the way you're meant to feel and how your whole life changes, whether it's only for the next 12 hours or whether it's for the next 12 months, I've seen it both ways, where people leave and the next day or that weekend they're absolutely flying, especially the Friday nights in, or they maybe go for months where they're just they're absolutely knocking lumps out and they're feeling good and they take away so much information and inspiration that it changed their life, and a shift that a lot of them don't ever get back to the way that it was before. But for many people, they would leave and they feel really, really good. And then over a period of time, days, weeks and months, they basically get back to the normal way of living again. And then what you do is they come again, you get them back at another Friday night in and they go again and they get a wee top up every kind of maybe whether it's weeks or months to come back and get around about it. And then it's right, okay, so what is actually happening there? You get through the breathwork on a Friday night. You get the cold exposure. There's heat exposure as well. Relaxation. There's meditation. There's a reconnection process. That reset and reconnect is what it's all about. That's what the Friday nights are all about. It's a massive reset. You come in, you go through the whole thing, and you feel back to the way that you're able to feel, the best that you can at that time, which is enough for some people, but many people now are asking, right, what's next? What's the next bit to this? How do we take it further? And that's where, One Day to Change Your Life, that's where that came about, because it's like, what is it I'm actually doing? And then, what is the bridge from that into the programme? From normal existence to the Friday nights in, to the experience, to the programme itself, where you become, it becomes a way of living, but it becomes a part of your life. The One Day to Change Your Life, that's the one thing I would recommend that anybody goes and does. It's literally one day to change your life. And again, that's a really bold statement. I get that. But you need to watch the testimonials. If you're challenged by it, or you think, like, what the fuck's he talking about? Or I don't believe it, then, look at the testimonials and watch what people are saying. Because when you come into One Day to Change Your Life, loads of the different practices, again, it's the same stuff in terms of the breath work. You're going to learn how to breathe with function. You're going to learn how you're supposed to breathe, absolutely. Then you're going to learn how to breathe with intention, which is my system. I'm going to take you back inside your heart and back inside your soul. So once you learn the chemistry of the breath and why you're supposed to be breathing a certain way, then we take you and give you the experience of it, which is the most important thing. You get the experience of relaxation, deep relaxation. You get out of this and you get back into this. And then the meditation process, the reconnection back to the self, that's a starter for 10. Cold exposure as well. We'll go into the river, we'll get a bit of cold water. 1st of March, it's going to be freezing. Fantastic. So that's the kind of basics. Why am I doing that? Calm the nervous system, give the immune system a boost. There's something about sitting in cold water that basically changes everything within your body. It gives you, it's like taking back your power, and really you need to man up for it a lot of times, but it's the benefits you get on the other side of it, with that amount of stress, that good stress in your system, so they're kind of basics. They're starter for 10. That's the stuff you should be doing every single day if required. Certainly breathing with intention, certainly relaxation, certainly meditation. If you're not doing that every single day, I'm not really interested. And if you're still struggling and you're not doing it, how it goes together, then at that point you need to go, you know what, this isn't the place for you, because it takes work. So the basics are there, but also One Day to Change Your Life, that's really seeing, it's like the playbook, it's like the manual, to the whole programme. It's the stuff that puts the programme together. It's the reasons and the why as to how the programme works. And if you don't know that, you're really just taking my word for it. You're taking the experience, but you really need to know how it goes together. And that's what One Day to Change Your Life is all about. It's coming in, it's going through, again, Tony Robbins. He might have stole this from you, actually, Tony Robbins, The Wheel of Your Life. And interesting looking at his wheel, how kind of basic it was, and my wheel, which came through me, is original to me, is mine. The way that it came through in inspiration, sitting in meditation one morning, and how when you see the wheel of your life, the way that I do it, and loads of people get wheels. Joe Dispenza's got a wheel. Maybe he stole it as well, but my wheel of your life, and basically how it feeds into every single thing that I do in the programme. So I identify how you're doing with the spokes to your wheel, as I call them. They would call them segments. I call them the spokes to your wheel. But then it's like, they would say then go and work on all the individual spokes or all the individual segments. And I don't do that. That's something that doesn't work. So there's one thing you need to work on to basically get the wheel of your life back up to, how it's meant to be. Most people come in with either damaged or broken spokes. Some people have got punctures and buckled rims and the hubs upside down and back to front. And it really is like, how quick can you get, because the wheel of your life's a metaphor for how you're basically making your way through life. If your mental health spoke is snapped, or you've had a mental breakdown, or your physical health spoke is snapped, or at least it's severely buckled with a health diagnosis, then every single spoke in the wheel is compromised. So at that point, it's like, right, okay, we're not going to work on the individual spokes. There's one thing we need to work on. So I'm going to explain all of that and the significance of that. It's a great metaphor. It's a great way to explain the programme and what it is, this entire system in here. And off the back of that, then I'm going to talk about the pillars, the 3 pillars that are really the foundations of this entire system. Once we go through the wheel and we realise how that goes together, then it's like, okay, so what do I need to be doing day by day? What is it I need to be doing? What's the bits that I need to be working on? And there's only 3 things you need to work on, and they're dead simple, but when you apply them and you understand how they go together, will change your life in so many different ways and enable you to take your power back every single day in ways you can't even imagine. It's incredible what happens when you understand the 3 pillars. The 3 pillars, they're not the 3 pillars to success, but the 3 pillars to the programme that hold everything up. And once you learn them, everything's going to change. And at that point, once you understand the pillars and you know how the wheel goes together and you understand what you're meant to be doing, then it's all about the work. What is the work? What's the work I'm supposed to be doing every single day? It's all right for you. This is my 28th year every single day. I've never missed a day. And people ask me, what do you do? And I'm like, and this came from Robbins actually. Robbins used to say, do you want to know, or are you just asking? And that's a great thing, because if I had to just list, just now it's probably 12:30, 11, 1 o'clock in the day. For 5:05 this morning, the amount of things that I've done for the first 2-3 hours myself, and I'm getting up a wee bit later, I'm sleeping like a baby just now, my body's healing in different ways, I'm cleansing in a different way just now. One of my teachers, my acupuncturist, said to me the other day, you're cleansing on a different level just now. It's not a physical cleanse, it's like almost like an energetic cleanse that I'm going through, and that's because of the way I'm tending to myself in meditation. The stuff that's coming through, the experiences that are coming through, the inspiration I'm living just now is new ground for me. I haven't been like this for a long time, and I am loving every single bit of it. I am loving this journey. I'm loving the joy to be alive. I'm experiencing that just now. So when people ask me, what's the work? What are you doing? It's like, nah, you couldn't do it. It's too much. Even just getting up, in between the breath work and the relaxation, the meditation, I'm on the amp coil every single day. And then, what I had my breakfast in terms of the medical medium protocols with the lemon water and the celery juice, and then the heavy metal detox smoothie and all the different supplements I'm taking. And then movement and stretching and yoga and, the myofascia stuff. That's before 7 o'clock. That's before my day even begins. So at that point, even what you need to buy in terms of the machines to make the juice and to make the smoothies and all that kind of stuff, and the buying of the supplements and the superfoods and the different bits that put it together, is too much. So the work and the reasons for doing the work, it depends what you're coming in at, and it's really kind of important to know that it doesn't matter what you're coming in at, whether it's anxiety, depression, overwhelmment, whether it's trauma, whether it's PTSD, mental, physical, emotional, sexual abuse, whether you're suicidal, whether you're broken, whether there's no way back. It doesn't matter what you're coming in as, because what you'll find is, and this is where the programme, I've been talking a lot to my students, especially in our circle and the apprentices just now, about the work that I'm doing and the level that I'm basically operating at, and what it's basically doing for me. Yeah, my programme, that's my programme. Hardly anybody that I know could do that and sustain it every single day. I have just almost every single day for the last 25 years. Meditation's been the exact same. I don't miss a day. When I get anything about this, I don't stop. So people coming in, like, what is your programme? And that might be something as simple as, I'm going to give up coffee. For the next month, I'm going to stop drinking coffee, or I'm going to give up sugar. Or I'm going to basically spend less time on my phone, or I'm going to basically, get any practice of going to bed at the reasonable time, or I'm going to stop eating takeaways or poisoning myself with McDonald's. It might be that, and there's definite stepping stones, and there's no rush. And it'd be too big a shift and too big of a challenge to come in and do it at the nth degree. But surely that must be the level you're trying to get to. No my level, but the best that you can actually do, to fulfill your potential. What are the things that need to be addressed and made better so you can get to that place that's available to you? And that's where the work, your work, the stuff that you would need to do every single day, when you learn what that is and how easy it is and how it pulls you back towards it every single day, it should never feel like work. The work that I do myself, there's not been a single moment where it's felt like hard work. I remember hard work. I remember having to leave here at 5:30 in the morning and go to the building sites and stand in the piss and rain all day and basically knock your melting, for exchanging your life for paper. I remember that was hard work, that was graft. It's not about that anymore. It really isn't. It's the work that I'm doing, this work, and how it makes me feel and how it feeds into the wheel of my life, and how when I just tend to one thing and I do one thing, how every single thing in my life gets better. And in fact, the way that it's shown up just now in terms of the people I want to help, the opportunities that are coming in, the possibilities, in terms of taking this to the world. The only thing I've been doing is the programme. The only thing I've been doing is tending to that one thing on that wheel that makes everything better. I'm doing my own work. So people coming in, don't get disheartened by looking in and watching me or listening to any of the students who are absolutely flying. Some of them a lot of them have experienced enlightenment. They really have. And that's the plan for all this, to experience the divinity that's inside of you. The rest is just foreplay. But looking at them and going, that's just whatever it is. And it can be as simple as taking responsibility for your life. It can be as simple as taking back control and taking back your power. And then from there, getting onto the programme, that would be the next step. Taking full control and full responsibility, that ability to respond for your life, and then designing your own programme based on the stuff that makes you feel good. Again, people ask me, what do you do? I walk the dog. I'm now going back out on my bike. You know, I walk in nature. I breathe, I meditate, I do stretching, I do yoga, you know, I tend to myself. That's my program, that's what gets me into alignment. Everybody's different. It might be going out and run 10 miles every single day, as it was for me at one point. I was running 100 miles a week at one point. I was cycling every single day at one point. Talk about positive addictions. You know, so it's like the program itself and your program and how you would design that is based on those three pillars, what you actually need in your life to get you to that place where you're smiling every day. To get you to that place where you're happy and joyful every single day. That's the program, and that's what the program is within here. I will provide all the tools, all the techniques, all the different modalities, and there's many of them. The system itself is so vast, which is a bit of a challenge. There's so many different bits to it, but you get to kind of cherry pick, and you get to use what we've created. Over the last year, everything's been recorded. You know, so the breath works and the relaxation and the meditations, there's hundreds of them. There's hundreds of hours of meditation on the program for £1 a day. You know, and for me, it's like if you can't invest £1 a day in yourself, then fuck off. You don't need to be here. You don't want to be here. And if you're buying takeaways, if you're smoking cigarettes, if you're eating fast food, you're drinking one coffee a week, one coffee and cake a week, that would pay for the program. So at that point, you've got a choice. And the choice is very, very simple. Where do you want to spend your life? Is it in the darkness of the ego and the separation and the pain and the suffering and feeding all the stuff that I spoke about at the start of this, the horrors of the world? Or are you ready and willing to step towards the light, to come and gaze a hand, to get this world back to the way that it's meant to be? There are so many people going on about this just now because a huge part of it, once you get through all the different stages of the one day to change your life, you know, the intentional life and what I'm doing it and the reasons I'm doing it, you get through the wheel and then you get through the pillars and you get through the work and see where it goes together, then you understand what the program actually is. At the very end of it, once you're reconnected back and you're feeling the way you're meant to be feeling, you've then got the opportunity to come and join us. And at that point, it's a community. The community is what it's all about. Like-minded souls who are living in the light, they're living with purpose. They're waking up every single day, they're doing the work, they're dusting themselves down, whatever's going on in their life, and I could tell you 1,000 stories, horror stories, what people are living with. But also could tell you 1,000 stories, the exact same people, of triumph over adversity every single day. By basically standing up and going, you know what, I don't want to live like that anymore. I want to live in a different way. And this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to take responsibility for myself. I'm going to put time into myself. I'm going to look after myself. I'm going to tend and basically feed myself, feed my heart, feed my soul in ways I've never done before. And it's a new language, but once you understand how it goes together, everything changes. And when you're complete, when you're feeling whole, when you're happy and joyful, and you're run about like-minded souls. I've been talking a lot to my students about the 100th monkey. The 100th monkey was basically... It was a real thing, you know, where one of the monkeys, I think it was an island in Japan, where basically the monkey started, instead of just eating the potatoes out the ground, it started washing the potatoes in the stream. And then the other monkeys started copying it. And then when it got to 100 monkeys, this is a story I heard through Wayne Dyer a long time ago, when it got to 100 monkeys, apparently on the island, every single monkey, the behaviour changed. Every single monkey, so they all started doing the same thing. But the way he explained it to me, and again I need to double check this, and it's a long time ago, but the way he explained it to me was that the entire consciousness of every monkey in the world then shifted, and they all started basically implementing the same behaviour. You know, so that's the way that I see this community as one, in the light, towards the solutions. Fuck Donald Trump, Elon fucking Musk, all the problems of the world, the politicians, the war. Forget all of that. What's the answers and what's the solutions? What's the way that it's meant to be? And the way that it's meant to be is the divine way. My understanding of God just now is shifting massively. The way that I talk about, you know, the way, the truth, the light, the answers, you know, the power, the solutions, consciousness, that field of infinite possibilities, the way that I'm learning what that actually is, the way that I'm able to now express it and explain it, that's all shifting because of the work that I'm doing in myself. And when you reach a certain place, when you understand the power that's inside of you, that reconnection back to the divinity that you brought into this world, doesn't matter if you're an atheist, doesn't matter what your belief system is. We come in from source energy. Call it what you want. Some people call it God. I'm trying to keep away from that. You come in from source energy. You carry it inside of you. You carry the divine inside of you. Every single one of us. When we die, we go straight back to it. When we die, as soon as you die, you're back into spirit and you reconnect back to the divine. I know that is a literal fact because of what I've experienced. My mum died. I felt it. I experienced it. I've been through it. I know what happened. I felt when she passed. The body became an empty suitcase, but I could feel where she was. And there's people who have basically sat in that room next door and they've seen her in breathwork. They'll sit up and they'll see her standing beside me. And I wish I could see her, but I can feel her. I know where she is. She's in spirit. So the divinity that we carry, this life force, this divine essence that's in every single one of us, that can never die. So death becomes an illusion. So at that point, in this realm, whatever it is, whether it's who are watching about, projections and how it's like a simulation, which I'm starting to kind of warm a wee bit to that, how this thing that we think, this avatar of this physical body that would be Jim, and how the real essence of the divinity that's inside me, how once Jim is dead and gone, how that continues on in a different form, so this might be a simulation. I have no idea, maybe I'll be the Matrix right enough, but at the same time, when you reconnect back to it, when you have an understanding of the power of intention and your abilities and how you can make things better. Abraham Hicks taught me that one person in alignment is more powerful than millions who are not. And I always said, I wonder what would happen if there was loads of us in alignment. And alignment just means in that flow state of inspiration, connected to the divine. As above, so below is literal. Jesus Christ, I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. The amount of texts and quotes that you see within the Bible, God is love, be still and know that I am God. That's literal. We carry it inside of us. You're not the full thing. You're not God, but you carry a piece of it because you came through it. You came from it, so it must be inside of you. And right here and right now, what I'm seeing, every single day in so many different ways, the power that I know and I experience, that enlightenment, that direct experience of the divinity that I know is inside me, the real me, the true authentic self, the higher self. Watching Robbins talking about like mastering the self, and one of my students, what does he mean with the self? And mastery is what it's all about, but he's talking about the lower self. He's talking about going and getting the stuff and being successful and getting the things. As a starter for 10, I'm talking about the higher self, the authentic self, the true self. Very, very different. Be still and know that I am God. That's the self that I'm talking about. And once you connect into that, and then we stand together, the light that shines from that, the power that's in that, that's how we fix the world. That's how we get it back to the way that it's meant to be. That is the way, the natural path, how it's supposed to be, how you're supposed to feel, how you're supposed to live. And that's the solution to all the nonsense, all the shite, all the darkness, all the challenges we face in this world. Doesn't matter what you're coming in with, every single thing gets better very, very quickly in ways you can't even imagine, and that's why you need to experience it to understand it. And one day to change your life, that's a stepping stone, that's a bridge. It takes one day, it takes one moment to change your life. But when you understand what goes on behind it, when you understand the different kind of bits to it, it's like an index for all the different areas to your life. Once you have that, then you've got a chance. For the greatest good always, inwards and upwards as one, darkness to light, that's the way. All glory to God for the greatest good always, absolutely. Once you get it for yourself, then you need to pass it on. And that's the plan, to take it to the world and get the world back to the way that it's meant to be. And I am absolutely blessed to be sharing this with you. Those that are standing beside me, we're excited. It's getting better and better. The waves are building every single day. The world, the waves outside these walls, the challenges that we face, they're not getting any smaller. So even just being able to deal with that in a different way, to know that whatever comes your way for the rest of your days, you can manage it. Why? Because you'll know exactly who you are, and more importantly, all that you are. And once you know that, it doesn't matter what comes. God bless. Thanks for listening. Peace out. Take it easy, and bye for now.